Joining me now is New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, it's great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too, Marie.
Your
great
reaction to the debate and this race right now?
Yeah, this is going to be a bellwether event, and I'm very concerned, obviously, as a New Yorker, a lifelong New Yorker. New York City affects not just the region, but upstate New York as well. And these policies that are coming from Mamdani, this radical idealism that's really socialism, Marxism, is going to affect New York City and will negatively affect upstate. He's talking about, oh, it's only $5 billion here and $5 billion there. That's going to be real money, and we already are seeing an enormous budget, enormous unfunded mandates and liabilities with New York State. If New York City adds even more to that, that's going to be a real problem for all of New York. And remember, this guy's a New York State assemblyman, so he has policies that no one's really talking about that are very far left, very socialist, and it never works. And we've tried this in New York. If you want to look at a blueprint for how not to operate a state, look at New York. High out migration. We once had 45 congressional seats. That's real clout in Washington in the 60s. We're down to 26. We're going to lose even more. So this kind of policy is really dangerous. And to think that the largest city in the United States is going to have a communist running it with idealism, never run anything, a young guy who obviously is charismatic, but he's running around with AOC and Bernie Sanders. It's insane.
When I spoke with President Trump this week, I felt like he was on the fence about whether or not to get involved. Should he endorse Cuomo? Should he endorse Sliwa? What should he do? He wouldn't make a commitment on that. But I wonder what you think about the outcome of this race's impact on the midterm elections. Because I feel like some Republicans feel like, well, you know what? I'm ready to sacrifice New York. Let Mamdani take it because I know that it's going to be better for the Republicans in 2026. Do you think there's a feeling out there about that?
Absolutely. And that's probably true, but I don't want to sacrifice New York. This is where I live. This is where my family is. This is where our business has been for generations. This is where a lot of people have stayed in New York and have weathered the storm of high taxes, high regulatory burden, high wages, now high energy costs, an absurd energy policy. New York City is going to suffer the most, but what are they going to do? They're going to exact that pain on upstate New York, where we have agriculture and a lot of industry that are critical to our state's economy.
Your district really does get impacted in all of this. Look, I want to get your take on this government shutdown because Senate Democrats once again blocked the passage of a government funding bill for a 10th time in a row. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is slamming their refusal to come to the table and warning that the shutdown is going to start costing the U.S. economy up to $15 billion a day. I spoke with President Trump about the stalemate on Capitol Hill. Watch this.
I mean, they made one mistake. They didn't realize that that gives me the right to cut programs that Republicans never wanted, you know, giveaways, welfare programs, et cetera. And we're doing that, and we're cutting them permanently. We're cutting a $20 billion project that Schumer fought for 15 years to get, and I'm cutting the project.
What is the impact of this shutdown? How much longer can we go like this?
Well, look, they're hurting everyone. President Trump is trying to make this happen. You've heard everyone. We talk about the troops, you know, finding a way to get them paid, and the Democrats actually threatening to sue while he's trying to pay the troops. How cruel is that? My son's an active duty Marine. Obviously, that impacts my family, but families all across the nation, you know, helping with the WIC program. And now President Trump is looking for ways to keep our government open. But he's also saying, look, there are programs that are a waste. And one of the things that I think he's not talking about that's important is we have many unauthorized programs that still get funded that have no mission left. And that's huge waste in the government. And those are places we're going to look at to try to find ways to do this funding gap. But the Democrats don't care. It's all politics over people all day. It's all about power. They don't care how much pain they inflict. And I come from New York. I worked with these people. I came from the state legislature. I know how they enforce and impose laws. I think it's just ironic they're doing a No Kings rally. Yeah. They grow the administrative state, which suffocates freedom, suffocates rights, and causes dictatorships from the top, like we have in New York. New York is dictated by the far left, by the Democrat. You know, Governor Hochul has no say. She has veto-proof majorities run by people like Mamdani. They're the tail wagging the dog, these socialists. And so what are they doing? They're authoritarians. And you always look at what they're projecting. That's who they are. And that's what President Trump is saying. Look, I care about the taxpayers, not just in New York, but around the country. Yeah. We have, as you know, you hear this on your show every day, we're taking in $5 trillion out of our revenues, the largest in our history, and spending $7 trillion. That is not sustainable. Right. We can't do that. We've got to find ways to make an efficient government. We've got to keep our troops going. And this is impacting readiness. it's impacting our economy, and I think it's deliberate. They're trying to hurt our economy so that all the good things that we passed in the working families tax cuts and the good work we've been doing on rescissions and other things don't have a good impact and solid impact on our economy. They don't care.
Yeah, it's affecting readiness. I mean, we've got real adversaries out there, and you're looking at tensions with China, for example, spiking. Beijing imposing even tighter controls on rare earth minerals and warning against decoupling. Here's what the president said about all of that, the relationship between Xi Jinping and China and the U.S. Watch.
We'll see what happens with China. I've always had a great relationship with them, as you know. They're always looking for an edge. You know, they ripped off our country for years. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you. We're going to meet in a couple of weeks.
If you put that 100% tariff on top of what's in place already, you're talking about 157% tariff on China. Can that stand?
No.
I mean, what is that going to do to the economy?
It's not sustainable, but that's what the number is. I think we're going to be fine with China, but we have to have a fair deal.
Those comments turning markets around on Friday. The Dow was down before we released that statement, and then it turned things around. What's your sense on this fight with China when it comes to things that we need for our military?
Absolutely.
Rare earth minerals.
Yeah, well, we've been having this fight for a long time. Obviously, China is more than an adversary. In many ways, they're an enemy. I serve on the Intelligence Committee. They're an enemy. Trust me. They are not interested in helping the United States. They're interested in a long-term global domination. That's why you see them all over Africa. I just got back from South America. But President Trump is leading with strength. And that's why it's so important that we get the government back open, we have the economy rolling, we get back to our defense and some of the great innovations that our own companies are producing here that are being stalemated by continuing resolutions. We have to get back to regular order. The Republicans are doing everything they can to get to regular order, to make sure that we are producing what we need to produce and get the technologies of tomorrow, AI, all these things that are happening that our military excels at. We're holding them up from doing it because Chuck Schumer's rambling on about opposing Trump, no King's rallies, and that's all it's about. Democrats were polled. 1% of Democrats think that health care is a top issue for them. So this is a fake issue they're creating because it's the old rail. Let's go after them on what we're good at. They're not good at, closing the border, dealing with criminal illegal aliens, dealing with crime in our communities, getting our military back. And if they oppose President Trump actually trying to use some of that research and development money to help our troops, think of what that look is to our enemies. Think of China, Russia, all these countries saying, the Democrats aren't serious. And we're deadly serious. We have a strong leadership in the White House. We have a great speaker. We have a strong leader in the Senate. We just need some like-minded Democrats to really care about our country and move us forward.
Unbelievable that only 2 Democrats and 1 independent actually voted with Republicans.
Absolutely.
To keep the government open. Great to see you.
Thanks,
Congresswoman. We will be watching all of the developments. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney.